Hey, this is Jeff from Wunderdog Sports. Welcome to part 5 of my How to Win at Sports Betting video series. In this video, I'm going to talk about what makes a good pick versus a bad one. I'm also going to talk about how to go about making a good pick on your own. Finally, I'll share with you other options for finding good picks if you can't do it or don't want to do this yourself. Okay, so let's start with a recap of what I mentioned in video number 2 of this series. Your picks suck. Why do they suck? There are 5 reasons, and I'll walk you through them and tell you how to correct each one. First off, you're letting the wrong people influence you. Guys, you have to understand that the people hired to talk to you on radio talk shows or NFL pregame shows know absolutely nothing about successfully predicting games against the spread. They can get straight up winners the majority of the time by picking the favorite to win, but predicting a spread winner or an over-under winner? No way. Finding value in money lines? Knowing when to bet the favorite or take a chance on the dog? The sports books are very difficult to beat, and to beat them, you must take into account many factors. You've got to understand lines and odds. You've got to track your results, adjusting accordingly over time. Making betting predictions is a full-time job, and it's not something these guys are financially rewarded for. Anything they know about a game, the odds makers already know as well. The problem is, they sound very convincing because they are good-looking, articulate, entertaining, and confident, or they play the sport. But if you want to win at betting sports, you must ignore them. Or consider going the exact opposite way the vast majority tell you to go. While this angle has pretty much run its course and is no longer very predictive, for about a decade, I won massive amounts of money finding the NFL team that sports journalists in the New York City area most felt would cover the spread each week. And then I faded that team by backing their opponent. These guys' strongest consensus predicted winner consistently failed to cover the spread. For a decade or so, I hit over 60% winners with this approach. So just remember, ignore the talking heads. The second reason that your picks are no good is that you're more interested in being a fan than a winner, and you're betting on emotion or based on what you want to happen. Do you want your favorite team to win and cover the spread? If your answer to that question is yes, you must not bet on or against your favorite team. Stop doing it. Emotionally driven handicapping or wanting something to happen is a surefire way to lose long term. The odds makers know your team better than you, and your emotion surrounding them clouds your judgment, period. If you want to win at sports betting, you have to take emotion out of it completely. If you're losing, it's very likely because you're betting based on gut feel, and this needs to stop immediately. Thirdly, you aren't taking into account human nature. Guys, much like poker, sports betting involves the transfer of money from the unskilled to the skilled. As a result, these 2 games are the only casino games that you can beat long term. Contrast them with other forms of betting like slots or table games. Those games have a fixed house edge, and over the long haul, without cheating or elite card counting, everyone except the house will lose on those games. In poker and sports, there's a small subset of long-term winners. These are the only games that can be beat, which is why I make this my living. A big part of that is due to human nature. The fourth mistake is understanding the role this plays in making good picks. If sports betting lines and odds were always set accurately, we would have what is called an efficient market. And perfectly efficient markets cannot be exploited. Value and positive expected outcomes from bets can be found by finding lines or odds that are set off from reality. If we can find an NFL team that's an underdog when in fact they should be a favorite, we have found value. If we find a baseball team is still as a small favorite when in fact they should be a large favorite, we have found value. Now, why would these opportunities exist? Human nature. Because there are times when the sports betting market is inefficient, and inefficient markets can, at least in theory, be exploited for profit. Okay. The final reason your picks suck is that you're making bets in a market that you can't possibly beat. In addition to finding market inefficiencies to exploit, you need to bet in a market that you can beat from a commission standpoint. Let's talk about that. Sportsbooks don't offer even odds. They make you pay a price or a commission, also known as a vig, in order to bet with them. Think about it. They are forced to set lines and odds on every game, and generally they must take your bets on any game. This, if you think about it, is to your advantage. They're forced to take every bet while you get to sit back, analyze, and pick and choose your spots. In order to overcome that disadvantage, and the fact that they're running a for-profit business results in them paying you less when you win than you pay them when you lose. The average flat bet commission is around 10%, which equates to a 4.5% house edge that you must overcome just to break even. For bets with this edge, you'll typically have to risk 10% more than you will win. Now, what is a flat bet? It's a bet in which you're making one wager. For example, you're picking one team to win or betting a game that will have more or less points scored than the total number the odds makers put out as a betting line. But these are, of course, not the only bets that bookmakers offer. And they are not the bets that they push for you to make, for good reason. The reason is that their edge or commission is the lowest for these types of bets. They also offer more exotic bets like parlays and teasers. These bets appear very attractive by offering really high payouts or allowing you to reduce lines or odds when binding multiple teams. The trade-off, their commission on these bets is closer to 15%, 3 times the commission charged for flat bets. That is one reason these are generally known as sucker bets. And if you're primarily making sucker bets, you are losing. While it's possible to beat parlays and teasers in certain circumstances, this requires an extremely high level of skill and knowledge. Unless you consider yourself an experienced elite handicapper, this isn't you. And thus, it's important to stay away from exotic bets if you really want to win. Or follow someone with the skill and track record who can beat these more advanced markets. All of which brings me to what you should be doing when making picks. Guys, to win, you must have a rigorously statistically driven system for picking winners. No one that bets based on gut feel wins long term. All winners utilize statistics in some way. Winners track hundreds or even thousands of stats per team, updated every game. Winners pour through these statistics for every game, looking for an edge that can be proven to have worked in the past. Winners then assess the likelihood of winning in the future using predictive models. Winners create their own power rankings and compare them to what the market thinks will happen. Winners go beyond what the market is doing, putting in hours of research, finding information that is not publicly available or hidden in the stats. Winners can identify when the market is wrong or inefficient by understanding why the public is incorrectly backing the wrong team. This comes from years of experience watching and tracking how the public reacts to various outcomes in news. Winners have a set of systems that they hone and track. Systems are based on the concept that history will often repeat itself. I personally have thousands of systems across all sports based on a very detailed database that spans over 25 years of games with hundreds of data points on each team entering each game. Throughout every season, I'm tracking and adjusting these systems and testing new ones. I track how teams perform in certain situations, and my system highlights for me when these winning systems and situations arrive. I use this as a starting point for identifying potential betting opportunities. And then I apply my knowledge of the lines and odds offered, and I analyze what the market is doing and why. Only opportunities that make it through a rigorous set of hoops, anchored deeply in statistically sound analysis and understanding of market forces, make it through as a pick worthy of an investment for me and my clients. If you want to make your own winning picks, you must commit yourself to building a rigorous system. You must find reliable sources for data for teams over years and build a database. You must identify winning systems that remove gut feel from the process. You must give up fandom and must track and understand how various events move the market based on how humans react to these events. Guys, I won't sugarcoat this. It is not easy, and it's a tremendous investment of time and energy, but it is possible. If you go that route, I highly recommend finding a mentor. Now, an alternative is to outsource this activity to a professional sports handicapper. In the end, we all hire professionals to help us with things in our life that we want to get done, but we can't do or don't want to do ourselves. Now, of course, there are risks with this, and I will cover how to spot dishonest handicappers later in this series, which honestly is most of the industry, guys. In an upcoming video in this series, I'll provide for you a checklist to ensure you are working with someone honest and trustworthy with a documented track record of winning. Let me wrap up this video with an example of a very high-level overview of a pick process by breaking down for you my pick on the 2014 Super Bowl between the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. Guys, in this game, the Broncos were flying high with the #1 offense in the league, led by Peyton Manning. They were averaging a ridiculous 36.4 points per game. The Broncos were instilled as favorites, and my first gut reaction was that the wrong team was favored. But, as you should know by now, I never bet on gut feel. So it was time to dig into the stats in my Super Bowl systems. Maybe Seattle deserved to be favored, but I had to go through an analysis with no bias first. It turned out that the stats agreed with my gut. Now, I would have to explain to myself and my clients why the sportsbooks would get it wrong. The betting public agreed with the sportsbook, betting Denver heavily to the tune of 70% of the bets. Were they also wrong? In the end, my analysis confirmed what I had felt initially, which isn't always the case, by the way. Seattle had the #1 defense, and I believed that would reign supreme here in this game. This was based on my statistical analysis and my Super Bowl betting systems that showed me the value lie on the defense here, based on Super Bowl history. You can see my spreadsheet here in which I have the team stats and models for the game. While it's way beyond the scope of this video to go into that analysis in detail, just know that I spent over a week analyzing this game from every angle, statistical, historical, and emotional. In the end, I felt strongly that Seattle was the better team from a statistical standpoint and should have been favored. In addition, many of my Super Bowl betting systems indicated Seattle was the play. Finally, I was able to understand why the odds makers and the betting public felt like Denver should be favored instead. The general betting public loves offense. They couldn't resist Peyton Manning and his 36 points per game. They don't care too much about defense. Knowing this allowed me to understand that I wasn't really missing something here, but rather getting extra value on the better team because the line was wrong. The odds makers were going with what the general public felt in an effort to even out betting on each team. This, guys, is an example of an inefficient market opportunity. I felt like this was the perfect storm, one that doesn't come along that often. And it was, as the Seahawks won the game 43-8. Guys, you can check out my full detailed write-up on this game, or any write-up for any pick I've done for the last 2 decades over at Wunderdog.com. Okay guys, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next video, in which I'll cover the concept of line chopping for you. See you soon.